Hello? Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everybody. My name is Blake.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Will.
And the three of us are coming together today to bring you the first episode of TriTheGoulash. We have been wanting to do a creative project together for a while, and this is it. This is the podcast.
Goulash!
Today, basically how this is going to work is the three of us are just going to kind of ramble about certain topics. And today's is death. But before we get into that, we thought that we would kind of explain each one of us to you from the perspective of the other two people. So I'm going to let Will and Alex go first to give you an idea of myself.
Oh, yay. Ooh. All right, well, let's start with his physical attributes. Blake is brown-haired. He's got are those green eyes?
Ooh, I don't know, boys.
Ooh, dark
you tell
hair.
me.
Gray?
They're black.
Yeah.
He's slightly buff, like for a slightly below average height male.
He's an athletic male.
He looks like he'd be good at sports, but then you
he's
see him on the
not.
field.
police coordinator
Don't
guy.
throw a ball at
Give me
him.
a ball. I mean, I can throw a ball, but I'm not playing on a team.
So yeah, Blake, he's pretty cool. He's overly nice. Like sometimes he's just too nice, and you're like, "What's this guy want from me?"
Hey, thanks, dude.
He's really
Yes.
nice. Like he likes to make sure that he says things correctly, so he doesn't hurt your feelings, which is a good thing.
Yes.
Except for these two.
He's also a piece of shit.
These two. These two guys are the only exception. I'll break their balls all day.
I would describe Blake in one word, charismatic. He's just a good friend, and when you need him there, he's there, and you can always rely on him.
Man, this is getting
thanks.
real
Gosh,
sappy.
you guys-
Holy shit.
You guys don't know us at all, and we're just getting it deep, baby.
We love each other so
Yeah,
much.
deep.
All right.
We're all naked, actually, right
yeah,
now. So.
Sitting on the same love seat.
Yeah.
Not a couch, a love seat.
And we're holding each other's butt cheeks.
Yeah.
Mine's clenched, though. I don't know
Yeah,
about
so
you guys.
welcome.
Moving on.
All right, me and Al are going to describe Will.
Okay.
Will is out of the three of us, Will is probably the most traditional of the three of us.
Yeah.
He's very classy.
He dresses really well.
Oh, by far the best dressed in the group.
Yeah, for sure. In a league of his own.
Yeah.
Thank you,
He always
gentlemen.
looks
Yeah.
nice.
Yes. And by far can grow the best beard.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Definitely.
He's got
We're
curly-ish hair.
It grows from the top to the bottom.
We're not going to go into height because we're all, like, short. Like, we're all, like, 5'9". Like,
We're hobbitses.
yeah. So, like, that's
average Joes.
That's out of the
not even
ballpark.
short. We're just slightly below
We're
average.
average Joes.
Hey, we're not short, man.
average Joes.
Yeah, average height. But no, he's athletic. He's very athletic. He's pretty good at soccer.
Yeah, he played in college.
He did. He did.
He looks German. Like, he looks pretty German.
Yeah, I would say so.
Fun fact here. My last name. There's a town in Germany named after my last name. I'm not going to give it to you.
That's
but,
Switzerlandl. No, it's not.
it's actually Schnitzel.
Oh, okay.
Will Schnitzel.
Will Schnitzel.
He does. He schnitzels a lot.
But no, Will's a good guy. He's definitely a family man. He's very family oriented. Comes from a dynasty of brothers. He's got quite a bit of brothers. There's a lot of men in his family.
And by men, I mean a lot.
Yeah,
the
there's a
Y
lot.
chromosome
Yes.
is strong.
It's very strong.
4 boys. Out of the second generation, is 3 for 4. So the gene is strong.
It's strong, baby.
Why don't you display one of your skills for us, Will, and tell us a story. Just kidding. We don't have 3 hours.
AKA,
Yeah, guys.
Will tells long stories. Like, we could probably just let him do this whole podcast, and you would never run out of
Except
content.
nobody would follow us.
But yeah,
Nobody would listen.
you wouldn't be able to follow it, and I'd go one place.
There would be
and
no
then-
point.
Yeah,
I like that you
I'd get
own
lost.
up to it, man. You don't fight it at all.
but I mean,
No.
I'm 25-year-old, and I just know it. I suck at telling stories. But the funny thing is,
He tries.
I do try. I've gotten better, but it's really funny because everyone in my family is very good at telling stories, and then there's me. So yeah. All right, on to Al.
You're just an exception. Okay, Al Pal. Alex is, he's a
He is out. He's
The end. All right, let's talk about
Yeah.
death.
all right.
He's out
moving
there.
on. No, he's a good friend of ours. Obviously, I mean, we're all good friends here, kind of thing.
just met.
That's a given.
he is
We just
the artsy. He's a man of.
he's very talented with being crafty. He can build things and paint things and draw things
I like to tape.
He can
and
also
sculpt
sing. He
and
can
sing.
act.
He's good at.
He's flamboyant, and I like it.
Hello.
He's no, he's also athletic. This is Blake talking. I'm probably the least athletic out of the 3. Alex is pretty good at tennis, racquetball.
Racquetball. He beats
yeah.
me in racquetball.
He's very
I'll
good.
admit it, Al. You beat me in racquetball, but
It's official.
that's it.
It's official, baby. It's recorded
I don't
on
need
the
it.
podcast.
I don't need
Does
that.
it stroke the ego?
I don't need the statement.
Does it stroke
The
the
numbers
ego?
show it.
also another thing about Al, and this is a good warning for everyone because this is loud.
Yeah, look
He's
out.
loud.
If you ever comment on any of our podcasts, please, for God's sake, don't say anything good about him. Because he's just gonna go crazy. Okay? He's
Shit
gonna
on
I'm
eat
an
it up.
egomaniac.
He's gonna eat it up.
Please just poop
Yeah.
on him.
Yeah,
Poop on his
just,
chest.
yeah.
Cool. Do your worst.
Yeah, just that's a fair warning. Okay.
Yeah, so feeling alive, feeling great. I'm dying.
We all are. We are all everyone is dying.
It's a race.
Everybody.
You're gonna die!
Everybody.
I told you, he's loud.
But what does that mean? What does it mean that we're gonna die? Nobody really knows. So that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about death and everything that has to do with it. We thought for our first podcast that we would just kind of go for it. So we picked probably the heaviest topic of all time.
We're gonna birth this podcast with death. Like the phoenix as it rises from the flame!
Oh my God.
Okay, Jack.
Speaking of flames, I'm hot. I gotta take off my hoodie.
Ooh, Al's getting heated.
He's getting naked, more
He
naked.
is. He's shedding his skin like a snake.
Alright, I'm back.
So yeah,
So let's just get into it.
Get into death. How do we get into death? Ask me a question.
Okay. So we'll just jump into it here. Would you rather die a slow death? And when I say slow death, I'm talking about like, would you rather like the classic like be in the hospital setting, nurses, doctors, food, okay ice cream, your family's there, and you're dying. And
just
you're,
depressing, basically.
yeah, and you're
So-
just gonna go. Or the alternative here is you're cruising down the highway. It's sunny. It's nice. You see some like birds and some deer off in the wildlife to the left, and then there's a tractor trailer truck and you're dead. Which one's better? Which one's better? Sudden or slow? Al, what do you think?
I'm gonna say that neither is better, but if I had to pick the lesser of two evils,
Is it evil?
I don't know.
Is any of it actually
Maybe
evil?
it's not. Technically, it's necessary. I don't really want to live forever, so yeah. I've thought about this, whether I would want to draw it out and maybe like have time to say goodbye and to sort out all of my assets and whatnot, and to just contemplate it and meditate on death and be able to kind of just like really take it all in and to understand it better. But definitely the suddenly would be easier for the person dying. Like,
Absolutely.
I think that's
Absolutely.
easy.
Yes. I mean,
Like, you probably don't experience much pain. Like, if you say you get cancer and it takes like a years even to die, and you know you're going to die and it's going to be slow and painful, and you have all those treatments to go through, you have financial burden, you're
tricky.
stressing out everybody in your family.
It's tricky, yeah.
For all that time while you're going through that process. Whereas sudden death is traumatic, and it's like nobody wants to wake up and hear, that they lost their loved one.
I'm going to interject
overnight.
Here real quick. I just want to say real fast, I hope you guys don't think we're being insensitive. If anyone's going through anything like this or have a family member that's going through anything like this, definitely not trying to be insensitive here. We feel for you. But I think this topic is just kind of taboo and no one talks about it really, so we're just trying to kind of shed a light.
That's why we like it.
We're just trying to shed a light on it here. But yeah, I agree. I agree with that. If you're not including the feelings of the people around you and the people you're close to, tractor trailer truck is no question. Like, that is the way to f***ing go. Like, it is. It is. You're just like out like a light. You don't see it coming. There's no like anxiety. I mean, there's probably a split second of anxiety, like, holy hell, I'm gonna hit this tractor trailer truck. But then it's over.
But compared to weeks,
yeah.
months of chemo and radiation.
But here's the flip side of that. If you're in the hospital, you have time to say your goodbyes to the people you're close to, and you can almost do like a preparation for death. Like the tractor trailer truck situation, you have no time. You're just like, well, here we go, baby. But in the hospital, it's almost like, okay, I know death is coming. I'm going to accept it, and it's going to be cool. That's ideal. A lot of people don't react that way, but that...
Well, and it's worse for your family, too. Well, maybe, arguably. Like,
maybe they just don't
who
like
wants
you,
to
though?
hear that your family member, got hit by a truck or whatever?
Well, of course, but at the same time, you could be 24 and die, or you could be 60 and die a slow death. So, I don't know. I see both sides to each of the arguments, but I guess I would say I would rather die a fast one.
That's your answer?
Yeah.
What's your answer?
It's tough because, like, we talk about death like we kind of know it, but we really don't. Because,
no one has any idea.
Like, we know the feelings of death, but like as an individual, when I die, like I don't know what that feels like, and it's a funny subject to discuss. I'm
gonna say real fast that I want to get into what society thinks about death in general. But before we get into that, guys, I think I would vote hospital setting.
You'd rather have the slow death?
I think I
You'd
would.
rather take the time?
I think I would. It would be worse in, like, while I'm alive, it would be harder.
Yeah. The process would just be objectively
But, like,
harder.
after it's done, just for the record, I don't know what happens after we die. I don't think anyone does. But let's say, for hypothetical sake, my consciousness continues, and I can reflect on what happened here at Earth. If that is true, and I go through the hospital setting, then I'm going to be like, I did it right, baby. Because like, I'm going to have a send-off of all my family, and I'm going to have, like, time on Earth to reflect my upcoming death. I think that's, like, the right answer. It's harder, but I think that would be the right answer. That's just my take, though.
That's also like an ideal situation. What you're
Yeah.
describing is like the final
Oh my
run
God,
of a
yeah.
Broadway
Yeah.
musical, and it's like everything's like jazzy and shit, and you're like
Yeah,
doing
definitely.
jazz hands off the stage.
Yeah.
But like, it could be really shitty where you like slowly deteriorate and your mind just goes and you start forgetting everybody.
Yeah.
Or like, it could be something super painful
Well,
and you're just a vegetable.
Well, that and I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I don't like going to a hospital like and knowing that person is dying. Like that's
Yeah.
a shitty feeling. And
It's a weird
It kind of like the what's the word I'm looking for? The mood throughout the room is kind of.
It's like ominous.
yeah.
It's like.
But
kind
why?
of- yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Segue.
It's because we know this person is slowly dying.
And
I
you're
mean, this is what I
scared?
think. Well, no, and it's just the thought of losing that person.
Here's a thought. Guys, just go with me here. Have you ever met a ghost? And if you did, let's say, okay, we're sitting here filming this podcast naked, grabbing each other's butt cheeks, and let's say a ghost just drifts into the room right now. And for the listeners that are listening, what if,
Which is what they do best.
wherever you're listening, what if a ghost just appeared? What would be your first reaction? What would be your first reaction, Alan Will?
If a ghost appeared?
Let's just say we're sitting here, a ghost is just right there. What would you do?
I mean, I question whether or not it was what I was seeing was what I was seeing.
Well,
Like,
first
I'd
off,
probably be like, "Do you guys see that
Would
over
you
there?"
be afraid?
Maybe
Depending
I
on
don't
what
know.
your guys'
Be honest,
reaction
I would be
was.
afraid.
I
would-
think it
I would-
depends on what the ghost would look like.
I mean, I would be like, holy shit, it's a ghost. I'm freaking out.
Well, of course, yeah.
But the reason
There
I
would be
bring...
a side of eeriness, but
Definitely. The reason I bring all this up is why would we be afraid of the ghost? Because who has ever met a ghost?
well, lots of people can say that.
I mean, lots of people say that. But, like, has anyone ever just, like, sat down and talked to a ghost? I don't think there's any, like, account of that.
Yes.
And the
I
same...
think there's
Yes.
plenty.
The little girl in Casper or a little boy. I don't
Okay,
know.
maybe the ghost was a bad
Haley
example.
Joel Osborne or whatever. his
Whoever
name
that
is.
Haley, what is his name? Haley Joe,
Who cares?
it's
irrelevant,
Oz something.
but-
Haley Joe Oz. We'll
Yeah,
just call
he-
him Oz.
he saw dead people.
Okay, anyway, we're getting off on a tangent. My point is, no one knows what happens when we die 100%. There's a lot of like spiritual and religious speculation that we're probably not going to get into in this podcast. Maybe we will sometime, but not now. My point is, no one knows what happens when we die 100%. And so why is society viewing death as a negative thing if we don't actually know? What if when you die, it's great? What if it's great? And then we just have this idea of death being this bad, scary thing. And when it's around you, you have to be sad and afraid. I understand that when a loved one is moving on, that you won't see them for a time or maybe never again. I don't know how death works. And that part is sad because it's like, oh, I'm close to this person. But if it's not that, then why is it so scary?
It's just fear of unknown. People
I'd
are
say
afraid of
that
things
and-
they don't know.
That and just losing that person. I mean,
You've had them all along, and
if
then you
I
just
lost
don't.
one of you two, like that would be
Man, if you pass away, Will, I'd be like, thank God.
yeah.
that's
That's
over.
me. I would be rolling over in my grave saying, "I hate these two little." Ah.
But no, my point is like, I think people should re-examine death in society. I know down in Mexico, there's tradition down there when someone dies, it's more of a celebration than we live in the United States. Than compared to the United States, where it's almost like a quiet taboo thing here.
Well,
Nobody likes to talk about it.
No, not
no
at
one
all.
does, but I've also heard of like a celebration of their life.
Definitely.
You're starting to see it more. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, I definitely like that idea. Like,
And I think it depends on your religion as well.
it definitely does. It definitely does. Just for the record, we're pretty accepting of everyone's point of view here because we don't really know anything.
We follow the religion of ignorance. We just play stupid in every scenario, and therefore you can't judge us for our opinions because we're admitting to being dumb.
Yeah, we just don't know.
They are admitted to be
Will is ominous and all-knowing.
Will is...
He has the answer, he just won't tell us.
Yeah, he's...
Guys, I'm God.
We were talking about why somebody would be afraid of death, your own or a loved one. Will, you were just saying something about, you're afraid to lose that person that would be dying, so that brings up a whole bunch of issues with the whole idea of dying slow and knowing that your loved one is going to be dying soon or whatever, and just being able to grasp that, and you're afraid being in the hospital, you don't know what to say to the person. It's just kind of awkward. Like, you want to say goodbye, but then again, you don't want to say goodbye,
right,
because that sucks of what's to come after that. But why? And especially in a situation where, the person would be hurting. Like, do you really want them to stick around for your own...
That's a good point.
For your own pleasure of not having to say goodbye?
That's a good point. That's kind
really,
of like, is that a selfish move?
I mean, sometimes you would think so. Like, if you're talking about... Like, when I had to put my dog down. I had a dog. He was... since I was 5. Buster Brown. He was the man.
It's actually Mustard.
Buster Brown, Thunder
Is
Dog.
it Mustard? Is that something I don't know?
I would just call him that because he would respond.
I've
He would
never-
just hear like
he
the
was deaf.
inflection.
We've been
You'd be like
friends
his last
Buster,
couple of
and then you'd be
years.
like Mustard, and he'd be like.
So that's another thing we're doing with this podcast. Like, I know these guys really well, but I don't know everything about them. Like, I'd never known
We're
that.
learning.
I'd never known that.
I actually know
This is
the actual sizes of their dick.
Anyway, so Buster Brown, he was 16 years old. He was bumping into stuff around the house because he couldn't see. He couldn't really
guy.
control his bladder. He was
Poor
just peeing
guy.
all over the nice hardwoods in my mom's house. I was away at college whenever he was in this process of dying, like the last couple years of his life. And so I didn't even really have any responsibility over him, or I didn't have to take care of him. So it was easy for me to just be like, well, I want him to live, because I didn't have to like deal with the negative side effects of him dying. And my mom was crying out to me. She was just like, I am like so sick of seeing this, and it's so sad, it's depressing watching him live this way. Like, it sucks. Why can't we just put him down? And we would kind of like brush it off. We didn't even want to talk about it. Like, my dad and I and my sister, like, just brush it off. And every time my mom would bring it up, finally I got fed up, and I was like, let's talk about it. Are we going to do this? And then as soon as we decided, I was like, let's do it. Let's get it over with as soon as possible. Because once you decide, that's the hard part. You have finally accepted that this is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's only getting worse. Let's end the suffering and cut our losses and do it now while, he doesn't have to suffer anymore. And so we made that decision, and it was hard. But really, I think that's the selfless thing to do, thinking of him.
Definitely. I mean,
Not wanting him to be in pain, you know what I mean? Like, he was gonna die.
Yeah.
He was old.
And I
So
think
it was an easy decision in that regard, but, like, it was still hard.
I think it all comes down to the circumstances.
definitely. It's very situational.
Where
Very.
for Buster, he was obviously suffering in many ways, and you never want to see anyone suffer, especially on their deathbed.
This is a tricky question.
But it's very hard, because if you look into like a human aspect,
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly.
It's
where I was
very
going.
weird because I mean
It's different.
I'll just tell you a little story. My grandma, my mom's mom, was on her deathbed, and we thought she wasn't gonna make it through the night. She was in a coma. And all of a sudden, she just like came out of it, and she lived probably like another month to 2 months after
never
that.
knew that.
And like I said, I think it comes down to all the circumstances. And life's weird. Miracles happen.
Definitely, it's a very situational thing.
So, So yeah, that brings up like a whole mess of like different things to think about because you're like, well, I don't want to be selfish and keep them around just for my own pleasure or my own fear or whatever. But then also like, is it selfish to be like, oh, just put them out of my misery so
Yeah.
you don't have to
Yeah.
pay any more money to keep them alive when it's pointless and they're gonna die anyway, or just to get it over with because you don't want to suffer. Like, is that selfish? There's different ways to look at
It's
it.
tricky. It's very
Pros and
situational.
cons, negatives. It's difficult. So if anybody is currently having to go through something where they have to decide to put their dog down, or even more intense, decide on one of their loved
Put their
humans.
grandma down.
I mean, yeah, shoot, it's weird how it's
It
different.
happens.
Like
I
it's
mean, life support. That is a very good question.
like I personally, right now, I'm 25. I can say that if I were a vegetable and the odds were not in my favor and I didn't have like consciousness, I don't know if I would want to stick around.
Yeah.
Maybe give me like a couple weeks or something.
Sure.
But like, don't be keeping me around for a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
that-
I totally get that.
I mean, I don't want to put that on anyone either.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I
Expense-wise,
feel like I've done
that's
a lot of
money.
cool crap already. So like, I'll go out.
Yeah, we've definitely
On
had
top.
some experiences, which we'll get into in later episodes. Yeah, I know we're giggling here and stuff, but we're trying to keep this topic light. Everyone's going to have to deal with this eventually, and that sounds scary. But if you're aware of this topic and you, I don't want to say think about it often, but if you acknowledge that it exists, I feel like it makes this process a little bit easier. And it's interesting that it's like a necessary part. Like if we didn't have death in this world, the world would be drastically different. Like let's imagine for a second that nobody died. Okay, just imagine that you walk outside. Okay, so every day you wake up. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're going to school. Maybe you're going to your job. I don't know what you're doing in life right now. But every day you wake up and there's a sense of like, oh, I got to be careful there. Like, let's say you're crossing the street to go to school or work. You're like, oh, I got to be careful there because, something could happen where I could die. Everyone has these ideas of protecting themselves. But if that didn't exist, imagine if death wasn't an option. Like, let's say you're crossing the street, you get hit by a car, you're just like an inflatable something. And
Flubber.
Yeah, you're flubber. And you're just like, oh, sorry, man. And then you keep going to work or school. If that happened, the world would be insanely different. Like, population control, maybe humans would just be running rampant around the earth. Nobody would probably work. Okay, this gets into like another topic. If no one died and everyone was immortal, I would probably still do some kind of work. I don't know what it would be, but I couldn't sit around all day.
Yeah, you get bored.
I mean, you wouldn't have to work because you wouldn't need money, because you wouldn't need money to buy food to eat, because you wouldn't starve to death. Like, it would be really weird.
I think it'd be a different frame of mind entirely. Like, if you didn't die, you just have all these, like, hundreds of thousands of year old people that were just living and, like...
But they don't age.
Well, that's the thing.
Well, what does that even mean?
we'd
They
be
don't
living-
age. Do they not age?
I don't know. What do you think?
We only know that...
We'd be living on top of
Based
each other
on-
because if you think of all the people that have died,
Yeah, there
since
would be a ton of people.
this world there would be everyone in the ocean.
All I know
We'd be
is
floating on each
I'd be
other.
swimming. You want to go swimming?
if the population just indefinitely increased over time, I would not want to be alive right now. That's all I'm saying. In 2018, whatever it is.
I'm definitely not saying I wish this was a reality. I personally, Blake, I almost dropped the last name there. That was a close one.
When
I'm on my deathbed, I'm going to probably be nervous, but I'm going to be glad it's happening in the long run. I know I will be. Because, I don't want to live forever. Being immortal, that sounds like that sucks.
Well, yes, of course, but you can say that you're on your deathbed at, let's say, 85 years old. You've lived a pretty good life.
Hopefully.
What if it's next year?
What?
But yeah,
I mean, it could
exactly.
be
You
tonight.
never know when it is, and
It could be tonight. I don't know.
that. I think that's the scariest thing about death is you never know when it's coming.
You don't. You don't know when it's coming. That's probably, we can get into fears in another podcast, but the unknown. Did you hear that? Death is coming right now.
Yeah.
It's actually the Grim Reaper. He just knocked.
Somebody at your door. It's death.
You can we can talk about fears in another episode, but the unknown is probably the thing that freaks me out the most. But it is also like the most interesting thing. Like, if everyone knew what happened when we die, like if there was like what happens when you die for dummies book out there, then it wouldn't be a thing.
You could prepare.
It wouldn't be a thing. Like,
Yes.
if we knew what happened and, like, my grandfather was passing away in the hospital, I would just be like, all right, well, this is what's going to happen, and I'll catch you whenever I get there, kind of thing. Like, it wouldn't be a thing. I would just be like, okay. But, like, not knowing keeps this, like, kind of, like, sacred mystery around life that's keeps things interesting and popping.
Well, death is scary. So is life. Babies scare me.
Babies scare you?
Yeah, dude. Holding a baby scares me.
Get out of here.
Like, don't give
We're
a
about
baby
to dive.
to me
We're about to dive in.
because I'm afraid I'm gonna drop it.
I mean, they're definitely fragile.
Well, yeah, I had that thought holding Crosby. I mean, I think it crosses the mind, but
Just keep going.
oh, sad.
Wait, just start.
Yeah, we're not gonna
Just
talk
start
about
over.
babies. I was just making a joke to be
I mean,
funny.
we totally can talk about babies.
Um,
I'm ready to
I-
talk about babies.
I could potentially have a question.
Let's talk about babies. Why do we have to stick to death? Let's talk about babies.
You guys want to make babies right now?
I don't want to make babies.
Yeah, right on this coffee table, totem pole.
With this podcast, well, this is coming back into like your thing, but like we're really not trying to keep like we're trying to be as casual as possible here. So if
We all have jeans and t-shirts on, no ties.
No, we're naked.
I'm
We already
wearing
told you
sandals.
that.
we're naked. Al's lying to you. Yeah, infants are insanely fragile. Like if you look at nature, if you look at all the other kinds of babies, like you look at horses, you look at baby dolphins, if you look at baby puppies, they're all walking in like an hour's time, and they know how to eat and everything. Human babies are like the only ones that are just like, I'm solely dependent on my parents. I can't do anything. Like,
But that's until like 5 or 6.
sure. I mean, a 5 or 6 year old still wouldn't know what the hell they're doing.
Exactly.
I don't
But-
know. If I see a 3-year-old walking around and he shits his pants, I'm just gonna be like, get a f***ing job! What are you waiting for? What's taking so long? Contribute to society.
If you see a 3-year-old that's in their pants, there's something wrong with that because
I mean,
parenting there,
Dude,
If you're pooping in your pants and you're 3 years old, what the?
Dude,
My pants at 12. What's
3-year-olds still have problems with potty training. Babies are insanely fragile, and it's interesting. Like the beginning of life and the end of life is really interesting. Like when you're on your way out, you're pretty much fragile as well. Like you need help from other people. The doctors are taking care of you, or whatever it is. And when you're a child, it's almost the same thing, except you have this whole life on Earth ahead of you. Just kind of interesting.
So do you think that, since you're talking about like the cover of the Book of Life, the beginning is birth, the front cover, and the back cover is death, of course, and it's all cyclical. But do you think that those fragile moments are things that define what's in between a little bit? Does death give definition to life?
Oh my God,
Yes.
it totally does.
It does.
Going back to like this hypothetical thing about death not being like if everyone was immortal, death definitely serves a purpose. Like the reason I'm doing this podcast right now is because I'm going to die someday. I mean, that's not the sole reason I'm doing it. But death puts a clock on your life. Like, it's like, okay, I got to get some shit done. Death is going to happen someday. If we were all immortal, we would just be, like, laying around. Probably. There would be some of us that were, like, go-getters. But death definitely puts pressure on your life in a positive way, I would say.
Well, depending on your outlook, you
That's
could
true.
make it negative and
That's
be like,
true.
I'm so stressed out, I
Yeah.
don't know what to do with my life.
That's
I'm just
true.
gonna drink beer, and that's that's what I do.
I mean, we all drink beer, Al. What are you saying?
No, I don't.
So,
Will
so the fact that life has a time limit almost gives value to your time in a way.
Yeah, but you could ask the question, what is time?
Holy shit, we're about to get deep. We're about to get deep, ladies
mean,
and gentlemen. I hope you're ready for this. What is time?
Life is funny.
I'm just going to say it. Time is weird. It's weird.
It's really weird
Especially if you live
because
in Arizona.
if you look
Does Arizona have daylight savings time? I don't think they
ignore
do.
it.
that
ignore it.
this
That's
is
2 hours
irrelevant. Time. If you look at time as a kid, like time goes by so slow.
It's true.
As a working individual in the business world, time goes by so fast nowadays. Like
I don't know. 12:30
week-
to 3:30 is so slow. for
Well,
me.
of course, there's
that's
there's your
rough.
typical workday that drags out, but in the grand scheme of things, my weeks fly by.
Years
And-
now.
Very quick.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
honestly,
every year.
honestly,
it's funny because it's like, well, it seems like just yesterday I was graduating college. Well, I graduated college 2 years ago. I know that's not very long, but
yeah, we're all very young.
it's just a weird concept because, like I said, going back looking at it as a kid, it goes
is.
by so fast,
Guys,
or
I'm
so
not-
slow, and
I'm
then
not,
nowadays it's so fast, and who knows? Before you blink, you could be dead. And
It's true. It's true. I feel like every year I live, like the longer I live, the faster it seems like time keeps going. And what you were saying, Will, when I was young, I remember being, oh my God, I remember being in second grade. I remember, I don't know why second grade sticks out so clearly. I was in second grade. I finished second grade. I was going home for the first day of summer vacation, 3-month period. I'm not exaggerating. It literally felt like I was off school for a year. It did.
Seriously,
Like,
summers used to be so long.
But is that
Yeah,
just
it
based
did.
on like a comparison of your relative numbers? Like when you're 6 years old,
I
a
think
week
it-
is a 300th of your life.
that's
You've only lived 300 weeks when you're 6.
true.
Whereas
Exactly.
now, how many weeks have we lived?
But if you look at your mind, everything in your body, like me as a kid, I wanted to play outside, have fun as much as possible. But it's like your mind was developed fully, and like I don't know, I got bored really easily, and I think looking at myself right now, I have so many things I can do, and back when I was 6 or 5, there was just so little that I could do, and I don't
it was
know,
like-
it's weird. It's very weird.
It was like a different feel,
Yeah,
though,
it
when you
was.
were a kid.
And this is the funniest thing ever. Like, I think this is any little kid. The only thing you want to do is grow up and be old.
Yeah, it's like
I want to
reversed.
be
You can't wait.
I want to be a grown up. And
like
looking
reversed.
back, it's like, why the hell do I want to be a grown up? Like,
Oh, it's very true.
it's weird.
When you're a kid, it's weird. You don't really grasp time, and because you're not aware of it and thinking, like as adults, if you're an adult listening to this, we're gonna bleep out all the cuss words. So if you're a kid, it's fine too. But
No, we're not. That's not shit.
as an adult, you are so aware of time. Like, I gotta be at school, I gotta be to work at this certain time, I have to be at this meeting or this next class at this certain, like, it's so, time and being aware of time is so ingrained in our society. But as a kid, it's like non-existent. So when you're playing outside at the neighbor's house, like you just don't have a concept of time, and it feels like forever, and you just get lost in this like imaginative play. And then as you grow up, you just become more aware of it. And the thing that's weird about time is it's not like, is time real? Like, we all have, I know that sounds weird to say that. Is time real? I know that sounds really strange. Because obviously, when I was 2 years old, I look a hell of a lot different than I do now. So someone would say, well, of course time is real. You look completely different. But is it? Like, there is physicists that say that it's a dimension, which means that it can be manipulated. I don't know.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's say we go back and there is no such thing as clocks. There's no such thing as a calendar.
I like this.
I think you can say that about anything in life.
What are you talking about?
Like concept. He was talking about time.
I like.
He
what
was
Will's
talking
saying.
about time. He basically what I am saying is, what if we went back and there were no clocks, there were no calendars.
Went back to what?
At the beginning of
Just
time,
like
and
if they were never
Back
invented.
to a period of life, the existence on Earth, where we didn't have units of measure for time.
No one
No.
kept track.
Like we
yeah,
hadn't
there was-
consciously gotten to a point in society where we had like decided universally, or like at least
Just
with other people,
our
like,
overall
this is
thoughts.
what this time
there was
is.
no, our brains had no clue of
You were just
what this
existing.
word
Yes.
of what this word time was.
Yes.
This was a foreign language. Time was a foreign language. Picture that. Like, I don't know.
I think that would be a better society. Personally, I know it serves certain purposes. Like, you have to be at this meeting at this time, and you make these numbers and numerals to be at this specific location at this time, because if you didn't do that, I don't know when people would show up. So it makes sense in that regard. But if people just existed and didn't think about this stuff, I think life would be more fulfilling.
But can you do that after it's already been introduced?
No.
Oh, no.
There's no way.
No.
Dream all you
no
want,
way.
Yeah.
but time has already been established. We understand it. We've revolved our lives around it entirely. You learned how to say how old you were when you were 3. I'm 3.5. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
you learned
no,
how to
you're right.
count time.
You're right.
And
You're right.
from kindergarten, you are starting to be having to hold this responsibility of understanding time, and like you got to start being places, and like throughout school it just like keeps building. Like, you have to be more and more responsible of time, and then you get to be an adult and have a job, and you have all these deadlines, and everything is all about time, punching a clock
It's
or
weird.
whatever. Yeah, it's like
It's a
kind
weird
of what
thing.
runs us.
It's
I
a
have
weird
alarms
thing.
set on my phone. Like, it starts my day with
It's very
time,
strange.
recognizing a certain time. When I wake up, I'm like, what time is it?
I've had periods. I was gonna say I've had times in my life, but that's kind of funny that I would put it that way. I've had periods in my life where I have lost track of time. Like, me, Will, and Alex have been on trips before where we're doing certain things and helping out certain communities, and while we're doing the work, I just kind of lose track of time. Like, when we were in Springfield and stuff like that, when we were working with Habitat, I would, like, when we were on the site, I would just kind of lose, like, I wouldn't really think about time. I was just, like, existing in the moment, and I was super happy while that was going on. Like,
It's funny.
it serves a purpose, but it also, like, with
makes
anything in
sense.
life, it's moderation. And I think if you're too focused in on the idea of time and death, it can consume you. It can
Well,
consume
yeah.
you.
I mean, if you're gonna think about, hey, when am I gonna die? Like, that's gonna you're gonna kill yourself there. Like,
Yeah.
if
No,
you
you
think
are.
about that daily,
If you think about death daily and you have strong anxiety about it, then what kind of life is that?
yeah,
Kind of thing.
you should definitely go reach out a therapist and go talk to them because
I mean,
So you're saying that death and time can be a stressor, and you shouldn't let it define your life in a negative way to where you're like worrying about it all the time and constantly thinking about it. But being conscious about it is not necessarily a bad thing, because then you can do things with it. You can be like, okay, I know I'm gonna die someday. I do have a time limit on my life, so maybe I'm going to,
Yes.
try and get these things done. Make goals for yourself.
yes.
well, yeah, I think, and this is what I think about life in general. It's all about making adjustments. If you are aware of death, I mean, will it be hard? Of course, it's going to be hard, but it's how you adjust to that circumstance. And I think if you adapt to it in a positive way, I think the negative, not side effects, but the negative,
Like
Repercussions?
aspects of
of death, like they aren't gonna be there as long.
That's true.
Whereas if you're like, oh, my grandma died, like, and I'm just gonna be sad for like months and months, like, obviously that's gonna be very tough, and
Definitely.
I think that's where the negative effects of death just hinder on everyone. And that's,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's definitely something that we're all going to have to deal with. But like what Will and Alex were saying, if you're aware that it's going to happen, and it's almost like a surrender. Like if you surrender to the idea that we're all temporary, and you accept that, and you're like, okay, someday I'll cross that bridge. It's not today, but I'm not going to dwell on when I'm crossing that bridge. If you just kind of say it's going to happen someday and it's going to be okay, then it makes life so much more enjoyable. And same thing, like death and time go hand in hand, because someone that's worried about dying and death is also worried about time. Like you're like, oh, I'm running out of time. For example, like people that hit their like 30, 40, 50 year birthday, there's like a time alert there. Like they're like, oh God, I'm 50 now. That means I'm going to be dying soon, because that's what time says. If you can remove yourself from that and just kind of surrender to the idea of this is the game we're all in, it's going to be okay, and I'm going to make the best of this. I think that's the best scenario.
Yeah, and I mean, that really all just comes down to your perspective, and I think you're right in promoting people to have a positive perspective and not worry. I honestly, personally, am like kind of halfway looking forward to dying, like not in like a super fucked up morbid way,
too,
but
in a
like,
weird
if
way.
I'm like 60 something, 70 something, 80 something, I'm pushing like, I'm up there. Like,
I know that
I'm
sounds
gonna be looking
weird.
forward to like, it's like after dinner, maybe you had a glass of wine and you're just like super relaxed and you had the whole day and you lived the day and you're just ready for bed. I feel like it's gonna be like that. Like I'm just gonna be tired. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be like, you know what? I've done a lot of and I'm tired. I'm ready to go to sleep.
Yeah.
It's funny because I feel like I've known people that have been like that. Like they just have lived a good life and they're content and happy with it, and they just kind of go quickly and they're perfectly fine with it. And I don't know.
That's how I want to go.
It sounds really morbid that we're like, oh yeah, I'm excited for that. Yeah, it'd be cool. It's more along the lines of like, I did it. The day's over. I lived a good life. It's time to go out with a bang. It's more like that. It's more like, I fought the good fight. here we go, baby, and then
Yeah.
you just swan dive into like this unknown.
Exactly.
So death
It's-
is easier to accept
End of a
if
new
you
chapter.
death is easier to accept if you accept your life
Yes.
first.
So we've been rambling a little bit, and in conclusion, basically, I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. Death, I think it is easier to face death with kind of an open mind and just being flexible. And going back to what I said earlier, it's all about making adjustments. If you look at it as in a celebration of life, then I think it's going to be much easier than, oh, I'm very sad because my grandma died. Like that, I just think it's going to be a better experience for yourself and just others involved. So
Well said, well said. So, hey everybody, this is Blake, and my conclusion is it comes down to moderation, really. You don't want to be overly aware of time and death, because if you're overly aware, you're just going to be stressed out all the time, okay? But you do want to be aware of it to a degree. You want to know that it's coming because it'll give you a positive force to drive your actual life. And hey guys, we're all in this together. Like, this is a game that we can't get out of, okay? So we might as well just ride the wave, baby. Just ride that wave, and it's all going to be groovy. It's all going to be
Okay. Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add to what those guys were saying. I think about this kind of stuff all the time, death and time and life and how they're all related. Probably too much, like Blake was saying, don't think about it too much. It might stress you out. I definitely think I get stressed out whenever I think about it. But I'm usually able to wrap my head around death. Like, I've experienced quite a bit of death in my family and friends and all that. And everybody handles it differently. So you kind of just have to figure out how you can best handle your emotions whenever you're confronted with death or just the idea of death, whether you get like a diagnosis or you have to like put your dog down or whatever. My method is to actually think about life and how it's a cycle and kind of think about the grand scheme of just human existence in general and how every one life is just kind of like a piece of a greater puzzle, and that includes death. Death is a part of life, and so I just kind of like to think about it like that, and it helps me kind of cope with loss, just understanding like, well, that kind of just put a period at the end of that sentence. Now I can kind of look at that person's life as a whole, and accept it for what it is, even if it's like a tragic death. It's not super comfortable, but there's always positive of anything. You can look at any positive of life and death.
definitely.
So
in the utmost conclusion here, just keep smiling, everybody. We tackled the first episode of the podcast with maybe the deepest and darkest topic we could, and from here on, it's not always going to be this heavy. But that was it, and we'll see you guys next week.
Well, hold on. You, I had a story to tell.
Off.
I had a story to tell, and I don't like that. There could be more to that conclusion.
Okay, I'll just cut that out.
So, in even more utmost conclusion to Blake's conclusion,
you can't say that,
which
if
was
I
an
cut mine
utmost.
out, if I cut mine
All
out, then they're
right.
gonna be like, "What's this utmost conclusion?"
Al has a story.
Let's hear it now.
Did you guys know that before today, Will had thought that I trimmed my pubic hairs in a tuxedo? This whole time. I don't know why he thought that.
What the are you talking about?
This morning,
Yeah.
I was in
it
the
weird.
bathroom, I was doing my thing, and Will knocks on the door, and he's just like, "Are you trimming your pubes?"
Just so everyone's not aware of this, I live in an apartment. Alex and Will live in a house together, and we are in that house right now.
So anyway, I was in there doing my business this morning. Will knocks on the door. He says, "Are you trimming your pubes?" I respond, "Yes, I am." And then he's just like, "Well, can I come in?" And I was just like, I mean, that's up to you.
I wanted to brush my teeth, so I went in and yeah, I saw I'm naked.
He looks at me, makes eye contact with me, and then looks directly at my and then he looks back up in my eyes with this expression on his face like, "What the f***, Al?"
Okay.
Like I didn't just tell him that I was trimming my pubes.
Let me tell my side of the story.
Let's hear it. Law and order. I'm going to be the judge here.
Okay, so knock on the door. I hear the razor. I go, "Al, are you trimming your shoes?"
How did you hear it? Is it electric?
Shoes. Yes.
Al, you trim your with an electric razor?
I got skills. What you gonna do about it?
Okay.
That's gross.
Irrelevant. Let me get back to my side of the story. Knock on the door. Al says, or I ask Al if he's trimming his pubes. He says, "Of course, yes." And I needed my toothbrush and toothpaste. I go in there.
Fair.
Okay, logically, if someone was in the bathroom, I mean, this is me personally. I'm not just going to be, "Hey, what's up?" Like, out in the air. Like, maybe, just listen. If I was in Al's shoes there, I probably would have, like, looked at the other way. But
Covered
Al,
up.
like,
Covered up.
Yes, covered up.
I'm Team Will right now.
Al looked at me like, "Yeah, this is mine." No. Kidding. He looked at me like, "What the f*** are you looking at?" Like, I wasn't expecting to see full junk, full everything.
Oh,
and of course,
Was it
do
small?
do I shave
Was it
my
small?
fucking? That's irrelevant. Do I shave my pubes?
The answer's yes.
With clothes on? No, of course not. You're a fool if you do that. But like Blake said, if someone walks in, you're butt naked, are you gonna cover up? Of course I am. I mean,
Okay.
I could go back to a really funny story, but we're not gonna go there.
You've reached your time limit. It's my turn to tell my part of the story. So, Will.
You've already told your story.
No, I
Al.
wasn't done. You didn't let me finish.
Order in the
This
court.
is the kicker.
Order in the
Yeah.
court.
This is the kicker.
Yeah, finish your
You've
punchline.
discussed your feelings and your personal, what you would have done if you were in my shoes or whatever. That's, to me, is irrelevant. That's just a personal taste of like what I'm comfortable with. I'm comfortable with you seeing my wang. I don't care, dude. We love each other. I know you're not going to
True.
judge me for my slightly
It's got a
below
good point.
average peen.
It's got a
This is what I'm saying. Will opens the door, makes the eye contact with my other eye, makes eye contact again up here, and he goes, "Whoa, what the heck?" He's like, "I didn't expect you to be naked." And I was like, "Will, what the f***? What else would I be wearing?" Of course I'm naked. I'm shaving my junk. I gotta get all up in there. You didn't say, "Are you
Dude.
decent? Will you cover up for my sake?"
You have
That's
a good point.
that's a
but
personal preference.
I'm just really.
You asked.
That you did not ask me to
wasn't
trim
here.
your gooch. That's why I'm furious right now.
That's what this is about.
So in conclusion, like the death of Al's pubes and the death of everyone else in the earth, that
we went from in the birth of our podcast to death to
life to time
freshly trimmed pubes.
pubes. We're ending on Al's pubic hairs. So, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. I hope you had a good time. We will talk at you next week. See you later.